And hello and welcome to Newsmax. Now, I am Bill Tucker. And before we get things started today, we want to extend a special welcome to all of our Dish Network viewers. We're happy to announce that Newsmax TV is now on Dish Channel 216. Our reach now extends to 50 million plus homes. Make sure you remind your family and friends how to find us. You clearly know how to find us. You're watching us. And tell them to call their cable operators and request Newsmax TV if they don't already having it. With me tonight in the studio, as you can see, my co-host for the evening, Liz Peek. She's a Financial Times columnist. You can read her every day at lizpeek.com. That's P-E-E-K, not P-E-A-K. So if you want to find her there, welcome, Liz. Good to see you. We've got an awful lot of stuff going on today. So
busy news day.
It's a busy news day. And in fact, here's an idea just how busy it is. Senate Republicans have the votes to pass tax reform. Once passed, the bill will go into committee to be reconciled with a version of the tax reform passed by the House. So we're a long way from done. President Trump wants a bill to sign by Christmas, which is why it's Friday and Congress is still down there talking and taking votes. That's a very unusual occurrence. Former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn pled guilty to lying to the FBI. The plea was entered in court late this morning as part of the plea arrangement. Flynn will now fully cooperate with the Mueller investigation. And the killer of Kate Steinle is found not guilty. While the sanctuary city of San Francisco may be done with him, Attorney General Jeff Sessions is threatening a federal case against him. And in fact, late today, we have learned that the Department of Justice is demanding custody of the 5-time deported criminal illegal alien. ICE is promising he will be deported, but the Department of Justice is saying he's violated the terms of previous convictions and he needs to go back to federal prison now. Larry Klayman will be here, as will Stephen Moore, and Democratic strategist Jessica Deloche will be joining us as well to weigh in on the program. Well, now today's huge news that broke early this morning is Lieutenant General Michael Flynn is cooperating with Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team as the Department of Justice tries to conclude whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia. According to one report, President-elect Donald Trump directed Flynn to reach out to Russians during the 2016 presidential campaign, but prosecutors are saying, no, there was a senior official, and there's a lot of senior officials thinking, a lot of people speculating that senior official might be Jared Kushner. So it's going to get interesting from here. One of Trump's lawyers, Ty Cobb, said this does not implicate the president, and nothing about the guilty plea or the charge implicates anyone other than Mr. Flynn. Mr. Flynn did put a statement today. Here's what it read in part. It has been extraordinarily painful to endure these many months of false accusations, charges of treason and other outrageous acts. Such false accusations are contrary to everything I've ever done and stood for, but I recognize that my actions in my court today were wrong, and through my faith in God, I am working to set things right. We should point out that Mr. Flynn is on the edge of bankruptcy. He is selling his house to raise cash. His defense so far has cost him dearly. So when he says he is acting in the best interest of his family, he does mean it. Trump, of course, has denied asking Flynn to reach out to the Russians. Is this a political problem for the president? We're taking your calls if you want to weigh in on this or anything else. 877-NEWSMAX, that's 877-639-7629. Okay. We are here to discuss with our first guest a couple of different issues. Kate Steinle. We're going to also talk about Mike Flynn, and that's where we're going to start because our first guest is former federal prosecutor, and he is the founder of Freedom Watch, Larry Klayman. Larry, good to see you. Thanks for being here with Liz and I tonight. Appreciate it.
Very important day.
It is a very important day, and I'm curious. Liz and I were talking about this before the show, and in fact, we've been talking about it in the newsroom all day long. Are we in danger of reading too much into this? I mean, or is this really the harbinger of something far more dramatic to come, Larry?
The latter, Bill. It's clear. Anybody with any degree of criminal defense experience, particularly in Washington, D.C., knows that you don't plead General Flynn out for one count of perjuring yourself to the FBI. Also, it's been leaked yet again, a new criminal leak from the grand jury and from Mueller's team. And I've got a court case in front of the court right now to try to stop that and also to order Mueller off as special counsel from this investigation. But the fact that it's so light extremely light, means that he got something in exchange. Now, what it means is he may not have gotten anything that is true or will prime, but, you know, drowning people they grab onto things, okay? And there have been so many leaks and so many threats against Flynn and his family and his son and everybody else that the guy may bend, and he may very well roll over to what Mueller wants. And he obviously has got something. Now, ABC is reporting that, again, another leak, that Mueller has gotten Flynn to say that the president ordered him and other staff members to contact the Russians. Well, that's not a crime. But in fact, this is something that may lead to other things. And again, people that are in this kind of a position like General Flynn may do things that he otherwise might not want to do. And there's one other point, Bill, is that his lawyers are going to go out on TV, if they haven't already done that, and on radio and say, oh, it doesn't touch the president, this or that. Now, that's not true. The president needs other lawyers. These people are ill-suited to represent him. And I wrote a column on Newsmax earlier this week on my blog, Klayman's Court. I hope people will read it. They're conflicted. They don't have the adequate experience, and they're part of this Washington clubby swamp that puts their own interests ahead of their client. Not with regard to Jay Sekulow. He's very loyal, but he's not a criminal defense lawyer. They need hard-hitting criminal defense counsel outside of Washington. Now is the time to go on the offense, not keep taking punches.
So the other side of the story, at least the story the Democrats are trying to spin at this point, is that he got a light charge because that was kind of his reward for cooperating with Mueller's investigation. I mean, I guess you could read that either way, right?
Well, I'm sorry to say that the Democrats are right. I mean, it's clear that's what happened. Now, the question is, will General Flynn agree to Mueller attempting to get him to say what he wants? And is he implicating Jared Kushner? Is he implicating Roger Stone? Is he implicating other people that were in and around the president? These people should be very worried right now. And while I honor General Flynn, and I think he's a good man and he's a hero, you know, people in this position will do things to turn state's evidence, which they may otherwise not want to do and may not be right.
I think a lot of people watching this might be confused when they've heard that the two conversations that basically Flynn lied about, one had to do with trying to block or ask the Russians to help block a vote, an anti-Israel vote at the UN, which I would say most Americans would think was probably the right thing to do, and also to get Russia to help fight ISIS. So you said earlier it wasn't a crime to reach out to the government of Russia from the point of view of the transition team. What is the crime here? Is the crime really just lying to the FBI? I mean, if other people have done that, is that really as far as this is going to go, or what?
No, that's just the pretext to get a plea here,
right?
And to get a cooperation agreement, okay? But you know, Alan Dershowitz, the leftist law professor from Harvard, has a good point. Now that Flynn has pled guilty to lying, he's not going to be of much use as a witness for Mueller.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to impeach him on that point. But the question is, what can Flynn give Mueller that leads to other individuals that can be corroborated by other witnesses and other people who are going to plead out to save their own skin? That's the issue here.
But again, it seems to me what the conversations that were had are not particularly nefarious. I mean, they seem to be forwarding the business of the United States. And I understand there's only one government at a time, and that's legally the case. But is there anything really wrong with what Flynn did in approaching Kislyak?
You know, in a moral sense and natural law, no. But there are laws that say that you cannot interfere as a private citizen with the president trying to conduct foreign policy. And that's what they're claiming with Obama. I think that what Flynn was trying to do was quite admirable with regard to Israel and with regard to Russia, saying hold off on retaliating against the United States for President Obama's sanctions. We'll solve it. But technically speaking, I believe that is a crime. Now, you know, in the real world of what's good for the country, it was good for the country that they were doing that. But again, we don't know what's behind all of this. Yeah. And it's ironic with regard to interfering with a president. You know, you watch the show Homeland, and there's a female president-elect who is interfering with the current president day in and day out, and that's the left who's portraying that in Hollywood. That's cool because the character was similar to Hillary Clinton. They thought she was going to be elected president.
Right.
Well, look, let me play devil's advocate here for a minute. we know about Flynn's conversations with Kislyak because he was being surveilled. The NSA was surveilling Kislyak. They caught Flynn in these conversations with him. They knew what he said. They knew that he lied. It seems to me if they were going to advance this on more serious terms, there would be a more serious plea to be entered here. I don't understand what itself indicates something greater beyond this, Larry, because he obviously did lie. They knew he lied before they ever went to talk to him.
They've known that for a year,
yeah,
right?
They've known that.
Yeah.
So that's where I get confused on this, Larry. I mean, I don't understand why it necessarily leads to something more profound, because the Logan Act, which is what you and Liz are talking about, is 1799. It's never been used to successfully prosecute anybody. So I don't. In a way, and I know I'm playing the skeptic here because I can make the argument on the other side, but in a way, I've got to say, Blake, Larry, so what? Big deal.
I would imagine if you went back and looked at what other transition teams have done, it is pretty customary to start reaching out to ambassadors and representatives of foreign governments. I can't imagine this is a one-off.
That's true. That's true. But where was this indictment brought? District of Columbia. District of Columbia is overwhelmingly Democrat. It's overwhelmingly African-American, anti-Trump, but not because they're African-Americans, but Trump's been portrayed unfairly as a racist, which he's not. And even under the Logan Act, this may be the first conviction in world history. So
Exactly.
Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. we know what it is, okay? That's why former independent counsel Robert Ray justified not indicting Hillary Clinton in front of a Democrat African-American jury after he said she had lied under oath to a grand jury, because that's how skewed Washington, D.C. is. And you've got these very leftist judges there that'll be very happy to give any kind of jury instruction to make sure that people get indicted in and around the Trump administration. I'm not being...
But Larry, as you know, and we're running out of time here, but as you know, as a former prosecutor, being indicted and being convicted, there's a big, long distance between the two.
And let me tell you, at the end of the day, I don't think that Flynn or the president or the people around him did anything wrong. I'm just simply saying, because I'm tired of seeing people go on TV. Jay Sekulow, who I like, who I think is a very good religious rights lawyer, and saying, okay, all is well. It's like Dr. Pangloss out of Candide, everything's for the best. It's not, guys. Let's start on the offense. Join me in trying to take Mueller out legally. We have a court case. Bring a case for illegal Fourth Amendment surveillance on the president and everybody around him. Just don't sit there and keep taking punches. In the words of President Trump, he should tell his lawyers, you're fired. He needs new apprentices.
and you know what? And I do want to mention, you have in fact filed suit to remove Mueller, and I'm saying that as we thank you for being here. Thanks so much, Larry. Appreciate it. Founder of Freedom Watch. All right, buddy. Talk to you again soon. All right. We're going to have a lot more to talk about. In fact, we've got a GOP tax plan that we need to get with. And with that, we're going to have Stephen Moore joining Liz and I in just a few moments. So don't go away.